everybody, welcome back to the show. We are here today on our Friday review of the Cabral Concept. Can't wait to share with you my 2 research studies for the week, ones that I've been reviewing myself that I can't wait to get into your hands and share with you, because I know whether you're a practitioner or you're someone who just loves to learn more about your own health, these are going to matter to you and your family. I've got a great product review. It is a fairly inexpensive nutritional supplement that really runs the gambit from improving overall mitochondrial energy and longevity, plus much more. I want to share that with you. And then also a book review. You know, I love to read, and one of my favorite authors I'm going to bring to you here today, and his latest book put on by his foundation, since unfortunately he is no longer with us, but that doesn't mean that his legacy and his teachings cannot continue on. So let's dive right into the show. I always love bringing you my updates to start the show. If you missed any of the shows this week, on Monday we went over, are you waiting for this to happen before you begin? So one of the biggest issues that I think all of us fall prey to is we always think we have way more time than we do. And what I wanted to share in this past Monday show is that honestly, the best time to get started is now, and I break down all the specific reasons why, and it's because we move through seasons of life. And so when you think about it like, oh, these goals that I have, well, if they have meaning to you now and they matter now, they may not in 10 years from now. Meaning like, they still will mean a lot in 10 years from now, but you might not be in the position physically, mentally, etc., to be able to actually take advantage and capitalize on the ideas you have right now. So definitely check out that show. That was episode 3419. On episode 3420, we went over how to make our children healthy again. I actually went through the entire bill, 73 pages, or the assessment put out, and I gave you an honest breakdown. Here are the things that I found to be pretty compelling. These are some things that I worried that it may never actually change. So I shared that with you on Tuesday's show. Definitely let me know what you thought about that as well. Again, politics aside, let me know what you think about this particular movement to make our children healthier again. On Wednesday, summer weight loss solutions. Basically this, I want this to be the year that you easily just drop 10, 15, 20 pounds on your quest to get in your best shape for summer, if that is a goal of yours. And I just gave you 5 specific ways, because not everybody loses weight in the same way. So I just gave you 5 different ways to look at and target for yourself what you feel may be best for you. And then yesterday's show was 3 takeaways from a year on hydrogen water. So I figured this would be a fun show to do. I almost never do follow-up shows, because even though I do a daily show, people always say, well, don't you run out of topics? The answer is no. Like, I have topics for at least the next 3 months, which are crazy, and things are always getting bumped. And so when someone writes in a question like, hey, you're not talking about hydrogen water as much, I'm like, you know what? I should give you an update. I use it literally every single day. Why don't I tell you, at least my 3 big takeaways? Maybe yours are different. That's why, again, I love hearing from you in the community. All right, but that's our recap. Of course, all shows are always at stephencabral.com/podcasts, and you can type in the search box, find a show that matters to you. Let's talk about our product review. So this is a product now that I've been using for a little over 6 months. Again, I like to give things a good 3 to 6 months. People use a product for a week and they're like, I don't know, I didn't really feel anything. I totally get it. Some products are meant to work right away and feel it right away. Like doing a 7-day functional medicine detox, you should feel it in 7 days, right? But there's a lot of products where you're not going to feel it necessarily, that same day, or it might be more prophylactic. But let me tell you about this product. It's called Taurine. Why Taurine matters is that it is a sulfur-based or sulfur-containing amino acid. But when you hear amino acid, you often think about branched-chain amino acids. You think about mTOR. You think about maybe making the body more anabolic. You think about proteins. You think of like, well, maybe that's not so good for cancer. Or, no, I actually need that for my body transformation goals. Here's what I want to share with you. Taurine is outside of that. There was a recent report linking it to worsening of leukemia-based symptoms in patients with ongoing leukemia. And maybe there's some truth to that. Maybe there is. We don't know. But what I can tell you is that taurine is an extremely important sulfur-based amino acid. Now, right away when you hear sulfur, you want to think about this. You want to think that I need sulfur to be able to detoxify all of the 100,000 man-made chemicals we're exposed to the environment. Extremely important. So taurine does that naturally and honestly really easily. But it also helps with cardiovascular support. So the number one reason for all of our humans in mortality is heart-based issues, valve-based issues, but also taurine helps support atherosclerosis. So the worsening, we don't want that, right? A plaque buildup in the arteries, so it helps to prevent that. Helps with healthy levels of blood pressure, may help with arrhythmias. It can help with, as I was talking about earlier, mitochondrial function, boosting ATP in the cells. It actually burns more fat as oxidation, so really clean, easy, great fuel. It can act as a precursor to GABA or GABAergic-based promoting amino acids. So that's great for reducing anxiety and calming the body. Also great in the evenings. You can use it any time of the day. It's not that it needs to be used in the evenings, but it can actually be pretty powerful to calm the body down. I actually use it mid-afternoon before I go to do my late afternoon, early evening workout. That's when I use it. I just put it in my shake. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I'll tell you the grams in just a moment. Good for eye health. I'm wearing these blue blockers for at least another month or so. And the reason I'm wearing them is I'm trying to help calm. So one of the things that taurine helps with is the retina. I'm trying to help calm the extreme strain I've gotten over the last 6 months. And so just way too much computer time. Like that's literally the bottom line. And I wish I could say like, well, you know better and you shouldn't have done it. I get it. I understand. But like my job is staring at a book or reading online and research, and then writing on a computer and speaking, into lights and a camera. Like that's the truth. And so I'm not going to retire. And so the thing is, but the nice thing is I've finished, which I love. It's a kind of a, it's bittersweet. I love to be able to teach and create curriculum. So I just finished the advanced certification for IHP's level 3, which are the most advanced labs on the planet. So now they can read all labs everywhere. But it's 3 hours less a day. It's 15 hours less a week. Easily. So it was a lot of work. A lot of work, a lot less sleep, but now my eyes are going to get a couple hours for sure, less screen time. So that's part of my recovery. Anyway, taurine is part of that. The daily vision I support is part of that as well. All right, I'm going to move through these. Just a couple more bullets I wanted to give you on this. Really powerful antioxidant. I'm always looking to help with oxidative stress, balancing healthy levels of inflammation, improving performance since I've added in cardio into my routine 4 to 5 times per week. How can I recover? How do I give my, my hip muscles, more recovery as well. Make sure that's going. And then for anti-aging, literally, this is cut and dry. 2023 paper published in Science actually showed that taurine deficiency is a major driver of aging, weakening your bones, your heart, your muscles, your brain, cognitive function, and immune function. So here's the nice thing, 2 grams a day. That's literally all you need. Pretty straightforward. It's tasteless. It's a tiny scoop of powder that you can just put in your shake. That's all. That's all there is to it. Yeah, I've been working on a product that I can't wait to debut eventually. It's not just taurine, but I've been using taurine for the last 6 months. It's inexpensive. If it sounds like it might be the right fit for you, if these are things you want to work on, great. Who might it not be indicated for? Well, always pregnant nursing. We don't recommend adding in a lot of extraneous-based supplements. Also, anybody potentially with leukemia. This would be one that you want to specifically stay away from. Now, again, it actually helps in certain cancer-based cases, prostate, potentially bone, and a few others, but I don't want to get into cancer-based support right now. All right, so that is our product review of the week. Inexpensive nutritional supplement, could be very helpful. I found it helpful. Maybe it will be helpful for you. All right, let's get into our book review of the week. Now, I read this one last week. This was a 2025 update. It's called Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life. And it's by Bob Proctor, foreword by Sandy Gallagher. Sandy Gallagher teamed up with Bob Proctor around 2008. Bob, who, again, I apologize if this is, I know that Bob passed away, but again, I want to be respectful. Amazing individual. I started to get into his work in the late 90s, and he Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar were my first three favorites. And then I found out about Earl Nightingale and the Nightingale Conant Foundation. And I basically read all of their books and their audios, and those were amazing. That was my outside of college education in the late 90s and early 2000s when Walkmans and Discmans were all the thing. And so I definitely used a lot of those. But Bob Proctor is really an amazing individual that taught about mindset, that taught about reclaiming your life. And so this is a tiny book, by the way. So this is like a one night read. It's 115 pages or so, but super easy, short chapters to read, maybe 2 nights maximum. And what it talks about is that you're never going to get anything in your life that you don't believe that you are worthy of receiving. That's essentially it. We don't get what we want, we get what we believe we deserve. I mean, that's really such a big part of it. Because if you believe that you deserve it, then you're like, yeah, of course I do. And you'll work towards it and you'll act accordingly. There's such a big part to that. And I think that that's so important that we start to look at that it's not just like, oh, I wish for it. I have a vision board, all of these things. I've done a bunch of shows on this. It even talks about in the Bible. It's like that you need to make the two one, right? The conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And that essentially means that you believe that you are worthy of having this thing and this life. So if that is not you right now, and you think that there's a disconnect between who you are and what you believe and the life that you want that you can't seem to get, this is a nice intro book. This is an introductory book. I would say this, if you've never heard about Bob Proctor before, I think his most powerful book is one of the first ones he debuted in the early 80s called You Were Born Rich. That does not mean just in wealth. It means in abundance. And I love that book. That was a great one. I read that in the mid to late 90s. And then The Art of Living is another great one published around 2012. And I do remember reading that one, but I had kind of moved through my self-help, self-improvement phase in the late 90s and early 2000s. But I love Bob Proctor, and I read basically all of his main books, and that was one. So this is an intro. If you want an intro, this is a great book to get started with. This is the basics. Change your paradigm, change your life. If you want a more robust understanding, really, of our subconscious and all of those things, well, a great book, of course, by Dr. Joseph Murphy is The Power of the Subconscious Mind. I recommend that book all the time, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, amazing book. But also You Were Born Rich is fantastic. Then there's the other one, The Art of Living, great ones by Bob Proctor. So I'm going to link those up today at stephencabral.com/3423. I can't link up any nutritional supplements, or I'd link up the taurine, but you'll be able to find a good taurine on your own as well. Comes in capsules, comes in powder, however it works for you. Phenomenal. All right. I wanted to read this to you. So I'm actually going to read you this research article as we transition to our research here today. This is pretty powerful. A recent study from the University of Toronto was published in Nature Microbiology. And it indicates that a low-carb, low-fiber diet combined with specific strain of E. coli may increase the risk of colorectal cancer. So again, just keep in mind, so many people have E. coli bacteria, an overgrowth of E. coli bacteria in their gut. So that's why this study is so important, because we run so many bacteria and parasite stool tests and look at E. coli, that this is just a really pertinent study. All right, the study conducted on mice. Yes, it is a mouse-based study, but again, I think we can apply a lot of this to humans, and if not, we move. Again, if it's found to be true in mice, we then try to look at this in humans as well. So it found that the combination led to an increase in polyps in the colon, which could potentially develop into colorectal cancer. E. coli is present in 60% of colorectal cancer cases. The low-carb diet thinned the mucus layer in the colon, which protects against microbes, right? So the mucus layer, basically, that has immune cells in it, and it helps to reduce inflammation, etc. And then what happens is, if that's not there, there could be a breakdown actually in the endothelial cells, the tissue of the gut microbiota, or the limina propria in the first place. And so what does that mean? It means that single cell junction of the intestines begins to become wider. And as it becomes wider, we start to let more bacteria out, and the entire body becomes more inflamed. And that is because the immune system becomes ramped up when there are undigested food particles, bacteria, yeast, fungi, and waste moving into the bloodstream. But let's stay on track. So here's what it found. Adding fiber to the diet reduced tumor formation and helped control inflammation. Experts emphasize that while the findings are compelling, further research, of course, is needed to look in humans, but we can start here. Soluble fibers such as inulin, pectin, and beta-glucan found in grains, fruits, and veggies may be beneficial for maintaining a healthy mucus barrier. These fibers ferment by gut bacteria, producing short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which strengthen the mucus layer and support gut health. So what it essentially looked at was being careful on long-term low-carb, low-fiber diets because we know that it changes the gut microbiome. So I've talked about this on a previous show. I think we want to be really careful with these low-carb, low-fiber diets. Our microbiome is greatly affected, even if it causes you to lose weight and there are many other benefits, which there are. Short-term cyclical low-carb diets can be great. We use them in our practice, but then we always begin to add back in carbohydrates. That's the truth. But also, you can still eat a lot of vegetables and stay under 75, 100 grams of carbs per day, and you can still get your 30 to 35 grams of fiber. If you're not eating 30 to 35 grams, it might be worth shooting for that, but of course, don't start there overnight. You'll want to gradually work your way up, and for most people in our practice, it just amounts to about 10 to 15 grams of fiber per meal. Usually it's around 10 to 12, and then that's over 3 meals per day. So it's not difficult, not when you're eating a couple cups of maybe berries and items like that, and maybe a daily nutritional support shake at breakfast. At lunch, you're doing 2 to 3 cups of veggies. At dinner, you're doing the same. You're going to be able to hit your numbers right there. Maybe add in a handful of nuts. You're going to be able to get that for sure. So just wanted to share that with you. Really important paper because we know colon cancer is absolutely increasing. And there are many different reasons for that, but let's not layer on top the risk by being on a long-term low fiber diet. Okay, and now let's get into our last research study for the day. This one I found to be an outrageous headline, but this is actually in the British Journal of Nutrition. So really reputable source here. This is the title of the research, and I'm going to link it up for you. I did all of the reading for you. This is a very dense 11-page report. It's called High-Dose Fish Oil Supplements Are More Effective Than Oily Fish in Altering the Number and Function of Extracellular Vesicles in Healthy Human Subjects, a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled parallel trial. All right, let me turn that into English for all of us here on the show and share with you exactly what they found. And what does it even mean? Well, basically it says this, that by using a fish oil supplement, high dose, I'll explain exactly the dosages they used, they said it was more effective at decreasing cardiovascular disease risk. So think of that as atherosclerosis, plaque in the arteries, heart attack, sudden cardiac death. So pretty important, right? Still the number one cause of death worldwide and especially in developed-based countries. So here's what they looked at. They looked at a high-dose fish oil, and the dosages were 2.2 grams of omega-3 fatty acids per 2 capsules. So that's what they used, 1.5 EPA, so a higher EPA to DHA. That's exactly what we recommend. They used a 2-to-1 ratio. Again, I've been saying this now for over a decade, but the best research is a 2 or 2.5 to 1 ratio of EPA to DHA. What that really means, because this is actually very important, the 2 main components of omega-3s are EPA and DHA. Comes from fish, harder to get from things like algae, chia, flax, walnuts, etc. You can. It's just the solvents in those things aren't so great. We've been looking into it now for 18 months, trying to find a clean way to get algae-based omega-3s into a fish oil. Just haven't found like a way that I want to put our name and our seal of approval on. But anyway, fish oil is the easiest way to do it. And here's what they found. So they compared it to 2 white fish meals per week, and then the control capsules were olive oil and 2 oily fish meals per week. And then another group of 2 control capsules along with 2 white fish meals per week. Okay, so basically they had people eating fish and they had them eating that or olive oil-based capsules. So olive oil is great, but it's mainly a monounsaturated fatty acid, not high in the polys, which are the omega-3s that we're talking about here. And of course, not omega-6s that we're talking about either. Here's what the researchers concluded. I want to share this with you, and I also want to share what I would recommend they do for a study in the future. So researchers concluded that omega-3 fish oil supplements with a high dose of EPA were more effective than dietary omega-3s in improving the number of clotting potentials in the cardiovascular-based groups. Both groups had altered fatty acid profiles of the circulating EVs and red blood cells, but their overall blood lipid profile was unaltered. However, in the omega-3 supplement group, there were fewer circulating EVs, resulting in decreased thrombin generation, leading to cardiovascular benefits. So there you have it. Again, we'll translate that back into English. Extracellular vesicles are the EVs. And essentially what we mean by this is that we want to be careful with these inflammatory-based components and anti-inflammatory balance of those. So what I can share with you is this, is that I like the study. I know that people are going to ask me about it, so I wanted to essentially share it with you and get ahead of it. But they didn't use the highest quality, high omega-3 fish. And I've shared this before, but they did use the most common fish that people are eating. So I think like this is important. Like it's an important study because most people eat white fish. All right, so no problem at all. And it does have omega-3s. So it's not that it doesn't. It's not that it's not beneficial, especially if it's wild caught. The issue is it's just not high in omega-3s. If you want high omega-3s, two things have to happen. One is it needs to be either wild salmon, wild trout, sardines, anchovies, or mackerel. Okay, those are going to be your best ones. The other high omega-3s are often higher in mercury, right? So I'm not going to give you high mercury fish to eat. All right. The other thing is that twice a week isn't going to cut it. So even if you had one of the 5 I just named, twice a week won't get you to the level. Like, and again, you can test this right at home. It's called the omega-3 inflammation test. You can find that at stephencabral.com/shop. Just type in inflammation test. You'll find the one that I'm referring to. Take it right at home. My daughters have done it. I do it every year. My wife does it as well. And you want a 3-to-1 ratio. That's it. That's the bottom line. Here's what I found is that because yes, some people can do it through fish alone, but most people can't. What I found is that people that are able to get to a 3-to-1 have sardines or wild salmon or mackerel 4 to 5 times a week. All right. So they have a handful sized piece of fish of those or can of sardines once a day, 4 to 5 times a week. And they're able to then get the same results of that basically 2 grams a day of omega-3 with about 1.5 coming from EPA. So I like to be honest. So like if you're going to eat that type of fish 4 to 5 times a week, making sure it's low mercury, you can get these same type of results. For everybody else, myself included, I just take 2 soft gels a day of omega-3. That's it, like plain and simple. I take 1 at lunch, 1 at dinner. You could do both at dinner if you wanted to. I still eat fish a couple times a week, but truthfully, whether I eat fish or not, I just take the omega-3s. It's one of the most powerful nutritional supplements that I've ever seen. You just have to make sure that you're getting one that's triglyceride bound so that it's easy to absorb. It's non-oxidized, that it is coming from a sustainable, hopefully clean fish. So look, that's the goal, of course. And that you're getting a 2-to-1 ratio. So the one that we use is the daily omega-3 support. I can't recommend it enough. I mean, there's like only a handful of vitamins that everybody really needs to use or nutrients. Vitamin D3 is probably one of those. Omega-3 is definitely one as well. It has, again, close to 30,000 studies on it. It's unbelievable. So I just want to share that with you because if there's one thing that we can do, like let's work on our heart. That's really it. So find a good functional medicine company, or you can use Equalife's. Again, all the labs, all the products that I use in my practice are at stephencabral.com/shop. But I wanted to bring this research to you. It is really powerful. We need to continue to improve our heart health. This is one easy way to do it. Take care, everybody. Have an amazing rest of the day. I'll be back tomorrow with our Cabral House Calls. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything. Functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.